very easy to do. Once people have their voice in the room and establish verbal territory, then they can start to feel like they can participate. So you see the questions up here, but there's a few rules that you have to follow in your group. So listen up here and let me tell you what the rules are. 1, you're going to get 1 minute to think about answering these questions, and I don't want you to be thinking about it right now. I'll give you the minute. I want you to be listening to me, okay? Just like you're going to listen to the people in your group. You're going to establish in your group eye-to-eye contact. You're not going to interrupt the person who's talking. You're not going to ask them questions. You're not going to do anything like that because you're going to be listening very, very carefully to what they have to say. And now this is not controversial, but when you get into controversial situations, that sometimes can be hard. And one of the ways that you can know that you're starting to maybe judge a little is if you get a little tight in your stomach, or you start to feel like, ooh, I don't really think that's the way it goes. Then you know you're not really listening to the person, right? What you're doing is judging. So I'm going to ask you to suspend judgment, listen to one another, look eye to eye, not talk while anybody is talking, wait 10 seconds in between each person, and not make any comments. Just let whatever the person is saying rest in. Any questions about this process? Okay, these are the questions then. What does engaging stakeholders mean to you? And you will answer all these questions at once. You have about 90 seconds to talk. And the group will self-monitor if you go on and on and on, okay? You can sort of like stare them or say something like that if they keep going on and on and on, all right? So what I want you to do is tell a story about an engagement process in your school district. Then talk about what worked, who was there, what didn't work. And finally, I want you to talk about how you felt about it, your heart, and what you thought about it, your thinking, okay? Any questions? All right, let's go. One minute to think. So if you're in a group of 5, I would like you in a group of 5, not a group of 10, otherwise we'll never finish. So a group of 5 sort of work together.
Okay, who's ready to start the story?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe you could do like 4 and 3. Okay. 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 All right.
I can do a minute, I think. We just we're in the process of doing a social media marketing campaign for our Ready for Kindergarten program for parents. Last year we had a budget of about $2,000. This year we have a budget of $500 for marketing. So last year we were able to split it up between radio and social media. This year we're doing all social media. And I've been tracking engagement and comments, and we've been looking at how many are registered. So in the 2 weeks that we've been doing the campaign, we've got, I think, almost 100 registered, and in the previous 2.5 months, we only had 50. So to me, that's one way of engaging. Targeted audience.
And how did that make you feel? What did you think about that?
Feel pretty good about it right now. We'll see how I feel on Thursday when the first one starts and no one shows up. Hopefully not.
But Thursday is
The first session.
the first session.
Yeah, Thursday is the first session. So, but I'm feeling pretty good about the registration numbers going up and having that significant spike. Just in the 2 weeks that we've been just addressing it.
Okay, so how many does each person give?
Your turn.
Okay. Oh, the parenting. Yeah. So we just recently, of course, I was able to go ahead. Yeah.
We had our 9th annual parenting forum, and we invite parents into our schools, and we provide breakfast and lunch and childcare, and it's a very inviting, hopefully inviting experience. And we just had that, and it went really well in terms of getting people there. But we feel like it could be a lot better. One thing, of course, is we're inviting people into the school. We're not going out and finding them where they're at, or going in and doing some sort of engagement where they're at, which we've learned, of course, would be an improvement. But it's something that we have, that we've done for a while, that we feel like we can leverage further.
I think the part that we have, when you do something 9 years in a row, and what we're thinking about now is how do we expand that and engage in different ways, because we've got lots of people and few new. So.
So I've been trying to think of an example. I'm on board. Trying to think of we've been floundering how to engage our stakeholders. We don't have members of the community come to typical meetings. But what we have set up is every month we have one school showcase one program, and that brings in children, it brings in PTAs, it brings in parents, and that's one way to get people to engage with the school. And it's very positive, it's happy, and it gives us talking points in the community to tell about what some of the comments were on our district.
We went through a year-long strategic planning process, and we were going to keep our same mission and vision statement, but we wanted to develop some new strategic themes. And so we put together a committee, and we had teachers from all levels, classified staff in various departments, parents, business leaders, high school students, and of course administrators. And they worked as a team over the entire year. We got feedback from the community to bring back to the committee, and it was really exciting. We had 4 table groups, and there were representatives from each stakeholder group at each table group. So it was great to actually spend the time and spend the money, because we had to have subs for the teachers and the classified staff, to actually get people working from different departments, from different areas, shoulder to shoulder, and crafting these themes for our school district. We were able to get the student voice in our themes, we were able to get the business leader voice in our themes, the parents, and of course we were able to hear from the teachers and classified staff. And so I think it really helped our strategic themes be richer and something that our staff can grab onto more easily. And so when you're working in a big organization, it's very helpful and very invigorating when you have something that you've all worked on together that you can share with the organization.
Was your board a part of this, or was that all staff?
No questions.
Oh, sorry.
Gotcha.
I didn't write that down as a ground rule, see? That's why I didn't.
But you were definitely listening, you can tell.
No, I'm not going to comment. We're same page. I'm where you are. How does the board better engage and create that environment? Because in the larger community, it's just kind of there. It isn't any significant element in the community. And that comes back with trust issues. It comes back with relevance issues. And are we, in people's minds, are we the Nordstroms? Are we the FedEx that people come to? And it's the engagement that makes that happen. And it isn't a busload of regulations. You haven't done any good if that's all you're getting. It's a challenge.
Okay, my turn, huh? I don't know how to film myself here. We've been engaged in a year and a half long-range facility planning. And we had as many as 32 people that were invited from the school district. We had parent, teacher people that were involved, board members, staff, and business community members. And over that year and a half, we've all went through all the schools to see all the problems, and they pretty much specified what they wanted fixed. And so our role as board members is to make sure that everything that was on the list to be fixed was fixed, and that it was put on our school district website so that everybody could see that things are being done. And they even have a picture of, the new rugs going in, the outer shell of the schools being repaired, paving that was being done that hadn't been done before. And in that year and a half, I believe that the trust issue of the community has really increased with this board. They feel like we're actually spending the taxpayer dollar the way it should be spent.
Three more minutes.
That's the biggest thing. The big key is the trust, because there was no real communication between board members and the school district and the community at large, and they had some pretty harsh feelings, especially since the school had unified and actually closed down some very popular elementary schools, and people were feeling pretty sore about that. So we've been trying to repair those relationships for some time, and I believe it has come to pass that people are starting to have some faith in the board members. And now we find, after touring all these schools, just how bad the schools are. I mean, they're like 100 years old. We've got a boiler that you can't even find spare parts for. We've got a building in the middle school where you've got a foot-long distance between the floor and the wall because it was built on a cement slab, and it was built as an elementary school, not as a middle school. So we have a lot of big problems, and so now we've come to that conclusion we're going to have to pass a bond. So it's going to continue with this bond. We just did the resolution last night, invited the entire community to that, but only 30 people showed up, so we still have a long way to go, and I'm not sure just how to get more people involved and get them on board with what's going on. So we're going to go through the faith communities and see if we can't send out information letters and make sure that people know how to get to their website and see everything that we've already done so far to the schools. And also the business communities and the other CPOs, that type of thing. So we're doing our best to keep the ball rolling, and hopefully we'll get a bond passed in May. And so we just passed the resolution last night, and we'll hope and pray that things continue to improve and that the bond will pass in May.
What district?
Huh?
What district?
Malala River School District, yeah.
Have you finished? Okay. All right.
Your turn?
All right.
Viewer. I'm an
Oh,
observer.
the viewer,
Everybody has
okay.
finished.
Yeah.
Anybody still working? Okay. 1 minute? Okay.
Working hard.
Where you want to be?
Yeah. All right. I think they are just about done, and we will just, what I'd like to do right now is ask you for your insights. Let's talk about content first. What did you learn? What insights, ahas do you have?
Biting off more than you can chew, or trying to get too broad in your scope of what you're trying to accomplish, and avoiding the self-interest trap is, it's difficult to do in a large group of people. So smaller groups that can go back to a larger group is more effective.
Okay. Yes. Anybody else? Insights?
Listening more than telling and being able to create a dialogue.
So a listening stance rather than a message delivery stance.
That was the takeaway.
Getting to dialogue. Anybody else? Insights? Come on.
I think we all had a very similar definition of engagement. It was a conversation, and it was two-way. It wasn't stand and deliver.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Yes.
But I feel like I'm invested with these two now. That I've heard something they're doing, and
Now that you've listened to them, you feel invested.
I care about them now, and I've chatted for the last 3 minutes.
Oh, really? We don't do that, do we? We don't take time to get to know one another really well. And it's amazing what happens when people get to know one another really well. Because the first thing that happens is that we start to assume some responsibility. And that's the power of engagement work, authentic engagement work. People start to assume responsibility if they feel they've been listened to, if they feel they can make a difference, if they believe they can make a difference. So what about the process here? I mean, a lot of people in this room, but what about just the whole process, this grounding process?
How important listening is?
Okay, how important listening is. What else?
Acceptance. Acceptance of what you're listening to.
Acceptance to what you're listening
Yes,
to.
too, yes.
Suspending judgment, how did you do?
Pretty good.
Pretty easy on this subject.
That's
What
it.
about the other subjects that you deal with? The other comments, how easy is it to suspend judgment?
In some cases, impossible.
Talk about that for a minute.
I think, for example, when individuals in your community want to talk about how expensive the bond proposal is, when in fact it isn't. And when your community has the lowest tax rates in practically all of Eastern Oregon, and will continue to have the lowest tax rates in all of Eastern Oregon, and that education is an obligation of society, whether we, want to. So it's very hard to accept, and I realize completely civil, people can agree to disagree, and prudent people do disagree on certain things. But it's hard when some of their values are not based on fact.
So, I think one of the other challenges of authentic engagement is that we have to educate people. Does that mean they're going to believe us? No. Does that mean they'll trust us? No. But we can work on helping people to understand and get and receive, but not from a message stance. The way they come to know and understand is by coming together in diverse groups and listening to one another and hearing their neighbors, their teachers, everyone in the community talk about their perceptions about what may be expensive or not expensive. And so when you bring the whole group together, then things began to change. Now, a few years ago, I worked with a district in Eastern Oregon, and they had tried 3 times to get a bond passed for a new middle school, but had failed miserably time after time after time. So the superintendent decided to organize a group and decided that in this way that she could get this team to decide how to work with the community, and the team did. And they held a forum, and in this very small community, 500 people showed up.
Whoa, that's
And what happened in that very small community was that suddenly what surfaced was they did not like the proposed location of the new middle school. And so through the forum, they surfaced 2 other locations that would work for them. And as a result, the board then decided on one of those locations, and they went out again, and it was the largest yes vote that that community had ever received. There was also another district, also in Eastern Oregon, that I worked with. If anybody's here, they might recognize the story, but they said, you know, we want to combine these schools and we want one campus. And we have to do this because it saves money. And we have to have this happen. And those people don't know what they're thinking. And we don't want to talk about it anymore because the measure failed. And I was going to do focus groups, and we weren't supposed to ask any questions about it at all. Well, we didn't have to ask any questions about it because it surfaced with the people, and it became a call of, you don't understand. We don't want to lose our communities. So then we worked for 18 months. And we worked in the community, got all the voices into the room, and ended with a forum, again, of 400 or 500 people in this very small community. And they came to agreement. Because you can suspend judgment. You can. And you can bring your community together. And you have to really listen to your community. That's authentic engagement. When a board listens to their community, figures out what they really want for their students, and they do it with background information and education, then you have authentic engagement. And it begins with doing things like this grounding that we've just done, because people just talk. And they have to learn to listen, and that's part of the education, learning to listen. One of the most important things that you can do in authentic engagement. When people, keep going back here, when people establish verbal territory and they are maybe sometimes heard for the very first time, 90 seconds to talk. 90 seconds to say what you think, and nobody's going to judge you, nobody's going to question you. That's how they get verbal territory. And sometimes there's going to be people who take advantage of that, but not most people. Not most people. And I think that when they do that, it starts to build that sense of responsibility that we just talked about. So what is authentic engagement? You've been seeing it because this little thing just keeps moving. It's much more than delivering a message. It's a purposeful effort to bring together a collaborative group, constituency for identifying issues, solving problems, developing strategies, and there's all kinds of ways to do that. In my book, you can learn 1,000 different ways for doing this. And then also in the workbook, it's all outlined. You can just take the strategies and you can use those strategies, and the worksheets are there, and you can use them with your community. Whether you're doing a bond, a strategic plan, designing a new school, whatever it is, it fits. And then when you develop this culture of authentic engagement, you get sustainability. And it's not like, let's go out and have a bond and let's build community now. It's, okay, we have a strong community, we can build a new school, we can work together, we know what the community wants, and then the board is acting in concert with the community, and it's very, very strong. What else is authentic engagement? Oh, let's see if it'll do it. Whoops, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. you can read this as well as I can, but it mainly gives voice to everybody, and getting all of the constituents in the room, getting all of the diverse groups in the room, and you can have groups up to 500. You can have groups of way more. And I think if democracy means having power so that you can do things, then every single person in your community needs to have power. They need to have power to influence, to make decisions, to decide what they want for their community. And once they have that power, then they will feel responsibility for it, and you will begin to see bonds and levies pass more easily. So on your tables, you have an assessment. I'd like to see if you can fill this assessment out. It will just take a few moments. And you can either think about it in terms of your school or your district, and then you can score at the end. And does anybody not have one? Okay, we'll go back there. Let's see if we can get back there. Can you get back there? Here you go. This should take you about 1 minute to fill out.